The woman owned a teepee in most tribes. She built it and took care of it, so it was hers. They was made out of buffalo hides until about 1830, and then they started trading for the canvas. They really liked it. It was lighter, easier to sew up, but they didn't have to tan it, so it saved them a lot of work. So you wouldn't have been able to change them women's mind because they done most of that tanning. They can take a pretty good storm. They will blow over, but it takes some high winds. And it's the shape of them, plus they breathe in between the two liners. So whichever way the wind's blowing, it comes in the bottom, turn your smoke flaps with the wind, it creates that draft and sucks it out.
Gotcha.
That inside liner comes to the door, and when it's at the door and the door's shut, it gets to draw them pretty well straight up. It's like you're in the bottom of a fireplace. So most of the time your eyes wasn't burning and you wasn't breathing a lot of it if you stayed down below that liner. And that's why they didn't raise their beds up off the floor, because they stand down below that liner. This top part, the Sioux name for it was Ozin, and it was to catch your raindrops to keep the center of your camp dry. The way the pose is tied, it wants to drip right behind the fire. Now, most of the time, that Ozin just come from that liner, come right out here behind the fire, and you just ducked underneath it. They had a piece this big that's probably covering firewood or made another camp out of it or something. You got your rope that ties your pose together, can come down here and be an anchor rope behind the fire, and they'd tie it to that when they had that stuck down there. We tie ours to the side and put what they call a crow's foot, and it's a circle that goes around the top and comes down on both sides. Put some long stakes and pretty good sized rope. Till your rope gets rotten at the bottom, it really anchors her down pretty good. Coyote hat with elk ivory teeth for its eyes. The elk ivory was kind of the Indians' diamond. They'd decorate their clothes, pouches, and hats with them. Otter, a skunk hat, and he's brown from the fire. A bobcat blanket, and there's 7 of them sewed together. Black bear, beaver, and that's what they was mainly after. And they'd put them on hoops to dry them out, and then take them to the rendezvous, trade them in for more supplies and dollars. They was shipping them out east and overseas to the hatters to make the beaver hats out of them. They'd shave that hair completely off of there, and then in the process of matting it back together, they was using mercury, and that's where they got the term "mat as a hatter" at. They was also putting it in the women's makeup at that time, and it'd make them lose their mind, eventually kill them too.
I think they still do.
Yeah. That's your lady's Indian saddle. The tall horn, there was the hang the papoose off the side of the horse, the baby. The elk horn was so once she hooked it, she could move it around, plus the horse moving around, it wouldn't come off of there very easy. And then the middle one's an Ashley contract saddle, and it's a reproduction. The man Ashley was a fur company man, and he'd had a bunch of them to send out with his company trappers. And the wooden one's called the sawbuck pack saddle. Now, they've been around before Jesus was born, so they've been around for years. And then you had what they called panniers, and there's like big suitcases, and one would hook on each side of that, and then you tie your camp and your bedroll and everything else on top of that. Turtle shell rattler, and they just put little rocks inside of them. Your rawhide drum.
Was it just an instrument?
Yeah, mainly. I'm sure they let the kids run them. That's a deer hoof rattler there above you right there, and that's just the deer toes. And they'd use gourds too and make rattlers out of them too. But yeah, I'm sure they let the kids play with them too. But might have not. Their music might have meant enough to them. The kid had to make his own. And then coyotes hanging there too. Now, and I used to hunt with 90 all the time, but 70's is a lot more fun. And it doesn't kick us off.
Who made that gun?
Tyler or Sibothium. He made it 2 falls ago, just before he got out of the Marines. It's just 520 built.
Oh, really?
And this, there's a 20 gauge to be legal to hunt elk in Colorado or deer here in Oklahoma. All shotguns, perimeter modern, have to be 20 gauge or bigger to be legal. Now, the barrelless rifle, 40 caliber and bigger for deer, 50 caliber and bigger for elk. And I've got 2 elk with them over the years out in Colorado. One with the flintlock and one with my cap and ball.
Wow.
And both of them during rifle season.
And sorry to be so stupid. What is that called again?
This one's a flintlock, and it's a Hudson Bay area. And the flintlock was top of the line for a little over 200 years. See that little hole inside the barrel? That's the vent hole. And this little pan right here is the flash pan. And that's
from the last shot. But I'll put a little powder in this flash pan here, and close this. And this is half cock, and that's your safety.
Yeah.
When you pull it back and pull the trigger, hopefully that piece of flint will hit this steel, spark it, open it, light that, and that'll light this. These were top of the line for a little over 200 years. It's what Daniel Boone, George Washington, early mountain men used. It's what we won our independence with. Let it up easy.
And that's it?
Uh-huh. Let it up easy. Just let it up easy. Get caught, let it go. Keep it tight to your shoulder. It's already, that trigger's real light, so be careful with it. Aim, line your sights up, aim right at that paper, and keep it tight.
Now?
Whenever you're ready.
You're aiming at the plate?